So I usually try to kick these off with some kind of a, set of observations, things I'm learning, things we're hearing about small. And I wanted to start this year with, I thought this was kind of a catchy title, but the year that small became big. And I've been at this now since 2012 was when we launched the first program. And really not knowing what we were getting into, and still very much a work in progress. But I found this quote, which I thought was kind of apt about, for any movement to gain momentum, one must start with a small action. I thought, well, how appropriate for this? So this was really about what's been going on historically, I think, that led to today, and the program, and the Mighty app, and a lot of other things. But more importantly, what's happened over the last 12 months that give me a lot of hope that this hasn't been a futile effort. So this is kind of where things started back actually in 2012, but I don't have any of the materials from that. So 2012 was the very first small-scale developer forum. It grew out of, I think, a frustration and a little bit of questioning that a number of us had that we loved real estate. We loved the mission of ULI. We wanted to continue to pursue that as a path. But the scale and the scope of most of those projects and the way they were being financed was not really aligned with what our personal passion and interests were. And so this program called the Small Scale Developer Forum was created to bring people together, to have conversations. And we thought it would be a lot of people who were just getting started and maybe trying to do their first deal, and quickly found many people, like all of you in the room, that actually, as Michael Lander says, small on purpose. I mean, this is what I want to do with my career, and this is what I like to do. So we would do these forums, and we would have, this was the one in Miami, always these interesting characters, many people that you know now from different places, up in Denver, out at Rhino, or Taxi. Everybody remember Kevin Kavanaugh, really iconic, very interesting guy out of Portland, Oregon. And then we would see these really great places. I mean, the one in Detroit was exceptional. I mean, the amount of building stock and stuff that we saw, and it was right at what seemed to be a tipping point, 2017. Indianapolis, where we rode bikes. We didn't walk. We actually got a bike share program, which was pretty cool. But through it all, we would have these smaller groups, and it was 40 or something, and there was just this feeling that, we were kind of this island of misfit toys. It's like, in fact, I was talking to Brian Alberts last night. Where's Brian? We were talking last night. He was saying, I go to these conferences and, I'm kind of interested, but I'm not sure I fit in. I'm not sure where I belong. And so I often thought about this program maybe being the island of misfit toys. I think there's a lot of passion, a lot of people doing cool stuff, but never quite finding a home at the other organizations. So I started this year thinking about, okay, where are the next two conferences going to be for the Island of Misfit Toys? And we obviously had one in Bend in the spring and Kansas City, where we are now. And that was usually the process. Start the year, like now I'm thinking about, okay, where are we going to be next year? And start to do the planning, thinking about the research and everything. And then I got a call from Tulsa, Oklahoma, to come and talk and do a full-day workshop with emerging developers about building small. They were using the book as a textbook. They were interested in this as trying to train, and so I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. It sounds like a good thing. And then quickly on top of that, I got the opportunity, working with the local district councils, to go up to Northwest Arkansas and to Oklahoma and do the Building Small, what I call my small talk, and meet with a lot of different people and also see some really cool stuff. And then shortly after that, started to partner up with some new organizations that I've been working with over time, Downtown Colorado Inc., where we're doing some really interesting work trying to train communities how to attract developers like you, people that are doing smaller scale, catalytic projects in their communities. How do the communities that really are off the radar get people like you to come work there? And then TDI, which has been doing great work forever, they created this program called the House, is it Witch Doctors or House Doctors? I can't remember what, House, I'm the Witch Doctor, okay. So anyways, they created this program called House Doctors. So working with them, again, trying to continue this idea of building small. And then that led to some other interesting things out in the Bay Area, working with Richmond Housing Services. I don't know how many people remember or follow Jason Hyman and the really great work he's doing down in Houston with his Lost Spaces conference. So did the kickoff for them virtually to kind of create some inspiration. And then through Patrice Frey, who many of you have met, Main Street America, was working with and got us connected with Opportunity Appalachia, which is a really interesting organization doing a lot of work in the area that now was already having a tough time and a tough economy, post-Helene, an even bigger and tougher economy. And then it grew. Just came back from the Diverse Developers Conference in Chicago, where I did a whole Building Small workshop. AIA San Francisco wanted to learn about this small thing, so I came down and did a part of their full-day housing program and talked about building small. The big tour through Florida was set up by ULI Orlando, Tampa, and then for the Florida zoning and planning officials, the keynote presentation at their conference about building small as an alternative to what in many of those cities was looking for big development. And then finally and recently, an invitation to the Seaside Institute in February to talk to them about building small and work with Impact Appalachia, which is developing really interesting funding tools for working with and working in these communities in Appalachia. And then Building Small sold out its first printing. So through all this, it kind of felt like maybe this is a real thing. And it was getting kind of big. But through all of that, so, I was trying to reflect on these things. So what have I learned? And there's a couple of things that I saw as continuity through all of this. And the first is, there is, I think at this point in time, there's always been, I think, a nascent interest in the communities. But I think the idea of small at the grassroots level and people working in their communities as a tool to heal, to grow, to create real places is more desired and more pronounced than ever. I think people really are asking for that, especially given the homogeneity of a lot of the corporate and institutional kinds of development and also the lack of financing that's going towards a lot of those things. The second thing that I've observed and heard from a lot of these people, there's a lot of people talking about what we should be doing and the way the world should be and all that. There's not a lot of people talking about how to get it done. And so there's this huge gap, and I'll talk later about the talkers and the trainers, but huge gap where I think there's an opportunity for groups like this to actually get out and do the work. The second thing, and working with Kat, a lot of the communities that want this don't even know where to begin. They don't understand the risk-reward relationship the developers are trying to solve for. They just think they put out an RFP, and why isn't anybody showing up, even though we've made it really hard for you to show up. So anyway, so they don't. And the second thing is the first-time developers who really want to do this stuff, they go through the training program, they get the certificate, and they don't know what to do next. There is this big gap, there's this cliff that people fall off of after they've done the training. And unfortunately, I think most of the industry organizations' answer to that is, we need to take those big tools and the way we've been doing it all along and just make it smaller, as opposed to we probably need different tools. And we need more than training and mentoring, because a lot of people are developing mentoring programs. But again, this idea of how do you get your first deal done takes much more than just a call every now and then and, let me tell you, when I was your age, here's what I did. It's something that's a lot more hands-on than that. And so getting that first deal done is a huge gap. So what is still needed is more than the training and mentoring, new tools, I think, to meet the moment. And then finally, patience and collaboration versus what I think has really become a lot of bombast and grandstanding and ridicule of the way things are versus people taking time to understand why things are the way they are and then doing the patient collaboration to get it done.